the Lions. They're a 6.5 point favorite. The Bills were a 2.5 point favorite. Let's talk about the Packers and 49ers. 49ers come in a 9.5 point favorite this Saturday night in San Fran.
Yeah.
Do you like the Pack or the Niners?
Well, I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to go with the uh, Packers and the points.
Wow, there you go.
Well, they're hot, and and the key thing is it's like March Madness. The five players that are the hottest and peaking at the right time have the best chance to win. Simple formula: peak at the right time. And it seems like the quarterback love of Packers is peaking. He's come along. He's become a hell of a quarterback. So I think if Love can get hot and get that ball to, he's got a lot of receivers. Nobody's the guy that it seemed like, a lot of depth in that regard. I'm going to say that Packers play within the spread.
Last one, we got the Texans and the Ravens. The Texans are a 9 point underdog. The Ravens, playing host, of course, are a 9 point favorite. I know our pal John at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. He's rip roaring, ready to go. What do you think? Ravens -9 or Texans +9?
Well, the Ravens have a better team. They have the best team. They're playing at home. They got Lamar Jackson, who's should be the MVP, I think, of the National Football League this year, this season. Uh, I think it's some of the same analogy I spoke of regarding Jordan Love. You know, young quarterbacks get hot. You never know what's going to happen. And certainly Houston's got a great young quarterback. So it's a quarterback league, and there's some great talent on display this weekend, no doubt about that. However, I'm going to hang my black hat on Baltimore. I'm a Harbaugh fan. I'm a fan of the family and what they've contributed to football and their love of the game and all that stuff. And I've met both Harbaughs. I remember walking into the Bear Bryant. My friend Wallace Marsh was the chairman of the Bear Bryant Committee in Houston, where they awarded a Coach of the Year, and one of the nominees was Jim Harbaugh. So after the banquet, I think the coach at Boise State, he's now on TV. I can't think of his name, uh, but a good coach, nice guy. I've met him too. He's a nice fellow. I met him that night. I walked into the lobby bar, believe that or not, and uh, I heard this voice, roaring voice, right out of the clear blue say, "It's going to be a slobber knocker."
That's
I
great.
hadn't, I hadn't even met Jim Harbaugh yet. So I walk over to their table and he gave me a big hug, and he was stiff as hell and strong and emotional. And then I met him. I can't remember. I met him in another place. And then I met his brother, John, a couple, three times. And I've never met a nicer guy in football or anywhere else than John Harbaugh. He looks you in the eye when he talks to you. He's sincere. He's just a hell of a good guy. So anyway, I like the Ravens for many reasons, uh, notwithstanding the fact that this is a game that Lamar Jackson's got something to prove in the
Yeah,
sense that not that he's he's got to prove in this game that he's a great quarterback. We know he's a great quarterback, but he hasn't won the big one yet.
that's right.
And this is the first step in that direction and that destination. So Ravens for me, and I'm leery though of the 9.5. I wish
Seems
this
like a
was.
lot.
It seems like a lot. I've known over the years from my occasional dalliances and gambling on football that that's a big spread.
It is.
And you got to believe, Conrad, that the coaches of both those teams, Houston and Tampa, right? 9.5, something like that. What'd you say? I think,
Yeah, it's the Ravens game. Yeah, they're a 9.5 point favorite.
yeah, but what? There's another 9.5 point favorite.
Oh, 9. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nine.
The 49ers and the Packers are 9.
Okay, that's a lot of points
Yeah,
in an NFL game. So, and it would, if I was gambling, I would probably take the points, quite honestly, and roll with the dog. So, but we'll see. Again, you get those young quarterbacks hot, they get on a roll, they're throwing strikes. You never know what's going to happen. You get a fumble here, a pick there. So it should be a great weekend of football without question. I know I'll be watching.
I'm excited, hopefully, that we get to see the Bills and the Ravens in the AFC Championship. That to me would be my Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
let's see how it shakes out. I'm pretty pumped up about it. Before we talk about the Rumble, I did want to mention one last thing.
I know you're going to be watching because you can't get out of your driveway.
Yeah, we are iced in here still in Huntsville, Alabama. They've closed the roads around my house. So for better or worse, here I am. But thankfully, I was stocked up, had a freezer full of meat, had a cupboard full of JR's all-purpose seasoning. I'll be just
Boy.
fine.
You're all right. You
Hey,
good.
let's talk about the feedback we got from last week, where we learned that people are really interested in you and Tony Schiavone calling Sting's last match.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it a little bit here on the show, but I saw that mentioned a lot on my timeline. What was the feedback you got about last week's show, and specifically our discussion about you and Tony perhaps calling Sting's last match?
Well, it seems to me it just made sense that the original two guys that called the very first Sting Flair match, if they were available and could still, carry their share of the water, would be a good opportunity. It's we're both on the air, we're both doing stuff, and I think our work's going to hold up without question. And so I mentioned it to Tony Khan. He loved the idea. My problem is not that. My problem is, my contract's up February 14th, which I've mentioned ad nauseum. I won't mention it again today. And that event is in March.
Right.
So we got to take care of some business, and I'm sure that we will. I feel good about where I'm headed with Tony and AEW. So I'd love to have something to announce before the 14th, if possible. That's cutting it thin. So anyway, it's something I want to. It's one of those feel good things. It means something to me. It's just not another match. And I think that's why people realize that, Connie, because the last I looked, the ticket sales were phenomenal for Greensboro.
Yes, sir.
Biggest events in Greensboro, which used to be the Mecca, the Madison Square Garden of the South, was the Greensboro Coliseum. And but it had in recent years and years since the heyday, it has fallen on hard times. You have decent crowds, 3,000-4,000, but nothing like we're having right now. It could very easily be a complete sellout. It's close now. So
as you and I are recording, our most recent report about tickets there was 3 days ago from WrestleTix, and there were a whopping 62 tickets left.
Wow.
So as folks are listening to this, we'll call it sold out. I want to encourage you, though, check back. If you're within driving distance, or I don't know, maybe you got your freaking tax return back or something like that, and you're like, man, I just got the cash too late, or I just realized I could go too late. I bet they open up a few more seats. Production kills and whatnot, AEWTIX.com. I'd keep an eye on it.
That's usually the case. Seats are opened up late after production's done, and you can see where you have the inventory. So I was just shooting the breeze with Tony Khan about that, and he liked the idea. All of a sudden, me saying this made it to a lot of the internet sites, and they had it as a done deal. I don't know where you get a done deal out of this matter.
Telephone, telegram, tell a wrestling fan.
Yeah, it's crazy. So people are just going to the business for themselves. So if you read on a site that it was a done deal, you're reading a site that has erroneous and false information. That's all I can say. And I understand those guys are trying to make a living and they want clicks and all that stuff. I get it. I'm not mad at you, but be accurate and report it as a journalist. JR and Tony Khan had a casual conversation. JR pitched his idea. Tony liked it. But we're still at the same place.
Right.
I got to get there contractually to be able to pull that off. I'm not using it as a leverage ploy. It just seemed like it made sense. And I think the best booking is booking this logical, and having JR and Shivani call the match, to me, seems logical. So we'll see how it all works out. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to be, and we'll see how it goes from there. But I'm happy with the way things are moving along.